First, let's start with this case. I, a 15-year-old boy, attend a private school on a scholarship and have faced significant challenges throughout my time there, both socially and academically. It's been tough balancing the need to keep my grades above the required threshold while also working to help my sister pay the rent. I've always struggled with math, and since I started working more hours, my performance in that subject has worsened. I'm genuinely afraid of losing my scholarship. I reached out to both my math teacher and a learning specialist about my struggles. Since hiring a tutor wasn't financially feasible for me, they thought it would be helpful to pair me with a fellow student in my class. For simplicity, let's call him Alan, not his real name. There are a couple of things to know about me. First, I excel in English and similar subjects, when I'm not rambling online, and second, I wasn't particularly fond of Alan at the beginning. Despite my initial feelings, this arrangement turned out to be quite beneficial for both of us. We began tutoring each other in different subjects. My grades started improving, and we even began to form a tentative friendship. One day, Alan was helping me with math after school. While it wasn't the ideal time, I needed the help because I had an important test the next day. We ended up losing track of time, and when I glanced at the clock, I realized I was on the verge of being late for work. I quickly stood up and started packing my things. Alan, noticing my urgency, asked why I was in such a hurry. I froze for a moment, unsure of how to respond. One thing about my school is that there aren't many students like me who attend on a scholarship. Unfortunately, I've witnessed how ruthless some of the students can be toward scholarship recipients, often bullying them. Because of that, I've worked hard to keep my situation private. This is where things became tense. When Alan asked again why I was rushing, I refused to give him an explanation and tried to leave quickly. However, he grabbed my wrist and pressed me for an answer. By this point, I was feeling frustrated and told him to mind his own business. Despite my clear irritation, Alan wouldn't let it go. He insisted that he was only concerned about me, but I was genuinely running late and didn't have time for a conversation. In my frustration, I snapped and told him it wasn't his business, that I was doing fine, and that he needed to stop worrying about me. Then, I rushed out. I didn't think much about the incident afterward, as I was focused on getting to work. However, the next day at school, one of our mutual friends, whom I'll call Shelley, a 14-year-old girl, approached me. She asked me what was wrong with me and accused me of being rude to Alan. She went as far as to call me a jerk for yelling at him, when according to her, he was only trying to help. From my perspective, I was just trying to get to where I needed to be, and Alan was being overly persistent. Since we aren't particularly close friends, I felt justified in my reaction at the time. Now, though, I'm beginning to question whether I was in the wrong. So am I the bad guy in this situation? Let's start judging. You're in the wrong. You suddenly jump up in a panic and try to leave. Of course, Alan is going to wonder what's wrong. Then you refuse to tell him what's going on and get mad about being asked. He was just worried about you, and you yelled at him for no good reason. You're in the wrong. I understand you were going to be late and your reputation was at stake, but this isn't your tutor. This is your peer. You say you aren't close, but it sounds like you were mutually helping each other, and as you said, starting to develop a friendship. From his POV, you suddenly rushing and leaving with no explanation may be hurtful. Does he know after school might not be ideal for you? If you just said something like, "There's someplace I have to be. I might be late. Thank you for studying with me," that might have helped mitigate the situation you are in now. It's up to you if you trust him enough about your scholarship and so forth, but make sure he knows you appreciate him and find that studying together is still good for you both. It sounds like he was good for you socially and academically. I know school stress and social anxiety sucks, but maybe apologize for the misunderstanding and acknowledge he really was worried about you. If he isn't nosy, something like you lost track of time and had to be somewhere for a family member is as close to the truth as you can if you're comfortable. Him physically preventing you from leaving was also an issue, though. So make sure he knows. And communicate it calmly, as you're not under that time pressure anymore. You're in the wrong. Actually, that was rude. You could have just said you're late for something and in a rush rather than snapping like that. Of course he is worried. Maybe apologize to him and tell him you had an important thing to do that day and you were getting late. Next up, I, an 18-year-old girl, serve as a carpool driver for my younger siblings, my sister Maya, who is 13 years old, and my brother Joey, who is 8. The carpool also includes Jenny, a 13-year-old girl, all names are fictional, who used to be friends with Maya. However, their friendship ended after a disagreement about a group outfit. Since that incident, Maya has been insisting that Jenny should no longer be part of the carpool. She explained that being around her former friend causes her anxiety because she knows Jenny no longer likes her. When I asked Maya if Jenny had been saying or doing anything to her, she admitted that Jenny had not, but argued that she shouldn't have to sit next to someone who dislikes her every day. Maya also said that I, as her sister, should support her and stop driving Jenny in the carpool. I explained to Maya that if Jenny's mother withdrew from the carpool, it would mean that Maya and Joey would lose their affordable transportation to school on Mondays and Fridays. I also suggested that Maya could listen to her music or talk to Joey during the ride as a distraction. Despite my reasoning, Maya continued to argue, and I eventually ran out of patience. I told her that the reality is not everyone will like you, and broken friendships are a part of life. I emphasized that she needed to move on and warned her not to cause any trouble with Jenny or her mother over this issue. I feel conflicted because of my parents' differing opinions. My dad empathizes with Maya, acknowledging that broken friendships can be particularly painful at her age, and he thinks I was too harsh and should have tried to find a compromise. On the other hand, my mom, who is also fed up, supports what I said. She pointed out that Maya and Jenny already sit at opposite windows, and since Jenny hasn't been doing anything wrong, there's no reason to disrupt the carpool or incur additional expenses for school transportation just because Maya feels uncomfortable. So I'm left wondering, is my dad right? Was I too harsh, and should I have tried harder to work something out with Maya? Am I in the wrong here? Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong, but I think you could have another conversation with Maya and help her express her feelings and validate them by listening to her, reflecting back what she's said, etc. i.e., it's tough to have to see Jenny when you've had a falling out, and it is normal to feel anxious when you see her and to think that she doesn't like you. Can you tell me more? Then assure her that you as her big sister love her. And although you couldn't agree to stop offering Jenny a ride, if Maya has any other ideas that might make sharing the car with Jenny more comfortable for her, Maya, you'd love to hear them and give her time to come up with them herself. If she comes back with, "Don't pick up Jenny," say you'd be happy not to, provided that Maya has a suggestion for another affordable way for her and her brother to get to school on Mondays and Fridays, because you've come up blank. Do not agree to drive all the days on the basis that you have your own obligations, nor pay the transport fee, but mainly so that she learns that a solution has to work for everyone, and asking someone else to do labor without compensation so as to avoid a feeling is not fair or healthy. I think giving your dad responsibility to bring your brother and sister to school on the 2 days Jenny's mom drives at the moment is the move here. It's not your responsibility to bring the children to school. The fact that you are is a sign of you going above and beyond, IMO. Tell Jenny that since she's getting older, she will be put into adult situations more often. One of those situations is having to associate with people you don't like, or who don't like you. Reassure her that nobody likes it, but it's part of life. Tell her that she doesn't have to be friendly, but she needs to be polite. Do commiserate with her and agree that the situation sucks. Thank her for helping you out. Then praise her for something she's done lately. Bonus points if you can reference that to how much she's growing up and helping out. Bad news is best sandwiched between positives. You are appealing to her need to be seen as one of the adults, important to tweens, and then ending with praise. You're not in the wrong. Next up, my girlfriend and I had been dating for 2 years. I am 25 years old and she is 24. Last week, my brother shared a post from a social media page dedicated to fans of cannabis. He included a humorous caption with it. To provide context, my brother has 2 children and almost never uses cannabis. At most, once a month, and only when the children are not home. Additionally, he does not keep any related paraphernalia in his house. My girlfriend saw the post and questioned me about it. I explained exactly what I just described, emphasizing that the children were never exposed to it and that they were perfectly fine. A few days later, I received a call from my brother, informing me that someone had reported him to Child Protective Services, resulting in a welfare check on his children. I immediately suspected that my girlfriend was responsible and confronted her. She admitted to making the call, stating that she believed cannabis is harmful and that she was acting in the best interest of the children. I was furious and started yelling at her. I reminded her that I had explained how infrequently my brother used cannabis and reassured her that he never kept any at home. I expressed my anger, telling her she had reported a responsible parent who only used cannabis once a month. I went so far as to tell her she was the worst person I had ever met. This made her cry, and she spent an hour sobbing in the shower. She later tried to apologize, but I refused to accept it. I also told her not to bother apologizing to my brother, as he wanted nothing to do with her. Ultimately, I broke up with her. Although I have accepted the breakup, now that I have calmed down, I am starting to wonder if I went too far. I feel overwhelmed with emotions and really need an outside perspective on whether my reaction was justified. Edit: to clarify, I have stayed with my brother in the past, and we have always been very close. I can confidently say that he only uses cannabis about once a month. Even his friends have corroborated this. I trust my brother completely, and his children are perfectly healthy. Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. CPS is overworked, making it difficult for them to have the resources to protect kids who actually are in danger. Calling them for nonsense reasons is such a nonsense thing to do. You're not in the wrong. I think, although well-intentioned, she crossed a line and did a foolish thing that could have screwed your family up. Even after you explained the situation to her, she went behind your back. She doesn't trust your judgment. You're not in the wrong. You tried to have my brother's kids taken from him because he smoked something that was made illegal because a businessman lobbied to have the law changed to protect his corporate interests and continues to be illegal because of pharmaceutical lobbying. Perhaps you should do more research on things before making decisions. You'll have time since we are now broken up. Next up, I am a 38-year-old man currently living in a group home due to a physical disability with hopes of regaining my mobility and independence. Over the past year, I developed a friendship with another resident who struggles with managing his finances. Being the kind of person who likes to help others, I often found myself offering advice and support to those in need. During this time, I loaned him approximately $600. While he made some partial repayments, he frequently asked to borrow the same amount again within a week. Eventually, I had to put my foot down and stop lending him money. Then, tragedy struck his family. One of his 3 daughters passed away, followed by the death of his second daughter due to illness. In response to these difficult circumstances, I provided additional financial assistance, offering around $150 in loans and giving him $100 as a gift to help with travel expenses, a headstone, and flowers. Just a week ago, his last remaining daughter's son passed away due to COVID-19. Feeling empathetic, I loaned him another $110 to cover travel and funeral costs. Despite this, he has continued to request more money, claiming he needs it for dress clothes and threatening not to attend his grandson's funeral if he cannot obtain the necessary attire. This situation has deeply affected his daughter, and I feel like he is using emotional manipulation, as he often reminds me that a true friend would help. My family supports my decision to stop giving him money, but it still weighs heavily on my heart. I know I can't keep providing financial aid, especially since I am on a fixed income and will likely remain so for at least the next year and a half. While I have mentally written off the money I already loaned him, I am struggling with the emotional burden of saying no. Update: thank you all for your kind words and reality checks, particularly regarding the possibility that these deaths may not have occurred as he claimed. It's suspicious how these tragedies seem to happen only after he could no longer manipulate me in other ways. I have now cut him off completely. While I do have records of what he owes me, I have accepted that I will likely never see that money again. Instead, I am trying to view it as a lesson learned and an act of good karma. Moving forward, I want to remain a compassionate person, but become wiser about whom I choose to trust. This isn't the first time I've been in a situation where I tried to help someone and got burned, but I hope it won't change who I am at heart, just make me smarter in the future. Hearing this advice from people who don't know me personally has helped reinforce what my friends and family have been telling me all along. Thank you all again for your thoughts and support. Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. What did he wear to the other funerals? This is definitely manipulation. Or says he won't go to his grandson's services. That is not your responsibility. If he wants to go to honor his grandson, the clothes certainly are not the most important part. You have already given money towards his ability to attend. If he chooses not to go because of clothing, and not because he is unable to go, that is a choice he is making. That should not be on your conscience. You're not in the wrong. Tell them that as a matter of personal policy, you won't consider lending more money until all of the previous loans are paid back. It's telling that his family won't pay his travel expenses. If I'm reading it correctly, he still has a surviving daughter. There's no need for a new outfit for every funeral. Ask to see the obituary. Accept that you are not his true friend to shut down his guilt tripping. Tell him, "You're right. I am not your true friend." I don't say that to be mean to you, but you are just two people in the same group home due to unfortunate circumstances. You could turn it around on him and say that true friends don't burden their friends with every problem that they have, expecting them to pay the cost of solving the problem, but find independent solutions and pay their own way. Every cent that you lose to his problems delays your move-out date. You need your money for deposits on an apartment, not his funeral attendance. I don't want to sound heartless, but did they definitely die? Or did the guy find a new way to get money from you?